Welcome to the Conscious Michiana Podcast, where we explore people, practices, and possibilities that support a more connected, compassionate community. At Conscious Michiana, we believe that healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in spaces where we feel seen, heard, and invited to show up exactly as we are. Today's conversation is a beautiful reflection of that belief. Lisa Kelly, Executive Director and Founder of the Mental Health Awareness of Michiana, joins us to talk about their upcoming exhibit, Journey of the Mind Through Visual Artistic Expression, a community-centered art experience that highlights not only creative expression, but also the stories, emotions, and lived experiences behind the art. Running from February 21st through March 26th, this traveling exhibit partners with the Elkhart Public Library and the St. Joseph County Public Library to create welcoming, accessible spaces for reflection, connection, and mental health awareness. Whether you're an artist, an advocate, or someone quietly navigating your own mental health journey, this conversation is an invitation to slow down, to listen, and to remember that you are not alone. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. You said it all, and you said it beautifully. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today. For those who may be hearing about this for the first time, what is Journey of the Mind Through Visual Artistic Expression, and what inspired your organization to create this exhibit?
So I'll answer the question first of what is Mental Health Awareness of Michiana about, because the art exhibit is really a reflection of that. So we as an organization, our mission is to improve the quality of life for those living in Michiana who suffer from mental illness or mental health concerns. And we do that by trying to promote, remove stigma around mental health concerns, build collaboration in the community, and by removing barriers to care. So to try to eliminate stigma, that is a very complicated issue. We know that there's lots of different things that prevent people from talking about their mental health and for asking for help when they need it. So we promote public conversation about mental health and mental health concerns. And sometimes, you have to be creative in how you talk, how you approach the community or engage with the community on mental health. Because even saying we're doing a mental health exhibit, there may be people who say, well, I'm not sure that I want to be part of that because then I'll be labeled as having mental health issues. So what we're trying to say is we need to talk about mental health, and we can do that in ways that are easy to engage with. So the art exhibit, we actually are not the first ones in the country to come up with this concept. We are an affiliate of Mental Health America, and there are other Mental Health America affiliates around the country who do this. So we've learned from other people around the country. And when we first visited this exhibit in Fort Wayne, we said, this is a beautiful opportunity for the community to come together and for community members to talk about mental health, talk about their journeys in a way that felt very supportive and loving. And so we said, let's bring that to South Bend and Elkhart. And that's what we did. The first exhibit was in February of 2025. And the idea was, let's create an opportunity, invite anybody in the community to present their work. But we did ask them to share with us how is doing art, how has being creative, how is it a reflection of your mental health journey, or how you have developed coping skills to become healthier and for your recovery. So we have work that's submitted, but we also have asked the artists to share with us about their journey. So they do that in ways that are very courageous. The artists who contribute their work, their story, I'm so in awe of, because it is saying, I want to come out of the dark and I want to be helpful to other people who may be struggling and may be fearful of talking about their mental health journey and what recovery looks like. So we so we create this opportunity for people to share their art, and the exhibit is an opportunity for the general public to come and see the artwork and read their stories. And the hope is that it does generate conversation and does make it easier for people to think about mental health, talk about mental health, and ultimately to talk about healing and recovery.
Well, you have answered several of my next questions, Lisa. All in one swoop. That was perfect. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that information forward. So one of the things that I wanted to ask is this exhibit highlights not only the artwork, but the story behind each piece. How do you create a space for artists to share in ways that feel safe, empowering, and on their own terms?
Boy, that's a complicated question, because we are asking the artists to trust us as an organization. And that's, in this particular time that we're living in, people certainly are more comfortable with the idea of mental health and mental illness and recovery. But there's still, that trust building is really important. So I think what we've tried to do with the submission process, with how we respond to the artists, is ultimately to express kindness and commitment to doing justice to the work that they're bringing forward. So that the first exhibit, that's the first time anybody really saw us in that space of art and therapy. And we've been around since 2018, and this was the first time that we were moving into more of a creative space for talking about mental health. So in terms of trust building, I think some of that you have to just, kind of jump in, do something well, and then the community can see what you're about. So I do think that how we conduct the exhibit, how we conduct ourselves, how we handle the submissions, all of that the community is paying attention to. And so I would say that, the second time around with this exhibit, the first exhibit, we had 17 artists and 30 pieces. That's amazing. I mean, for a first time, we were really blown away with that response. And people were excited about that idea that we were creating this space for them to show their work and to talk about their journey. I think that did feel very validating for people. And so the second time around, we've actually had 30 artists submit 65 pieces. So we have doubled the number of pieces that people have submitted. We actually had to say no to some because we have space restrictions, and we always have standards that we have to comply with in terms of showing work in a public space and making sure the work is consistent with the theme. But I hate saying no to people. So we have a great show, and the fact that we had more than twice the number of submissions tells me that people talked about their experience and had a good experience. We had one person who commented last year that she didn't know what to expect, but it was the best open call that she had received for her artwork. So I think that you create trust by showing up and by creating opportunity. And I think responding to people in a kind way and open way and supportive way, I think all of that is what we try to do with the exhibit and with our interactions with our artists who are participating.
One of the things as I was going through and reading through the things that you had online is I noticed that it appeared that you really spent a lot of time looking at making sure that you had a wide array of ages, as well as backgrounds, as well as experience levels, allowing it to be very inclusive. What does that inclusivity mean, or why is that so important to you when it comes to mental health and well-being?
So we as an organization, inclusivity is one of our core values. We want to be an organization that everyone in the community benefits from. And so we have tried to be very intentional about what strategies we use, what outreach we use, who we invite to, conduct classes that we offer. Economically, we have our access to care initiatives. We are intentionally trying to reach out to people who really are being left out of the mental health system. So everything that we do, we're trying to say to the community, we are for you. We want to be an organization that is responsive to the entire community. And the thing about mental health is that every family in probably the whole country is affected by mental health concerns and probably has a family member or a friend who suffers from mental health or addictions. Mm-hmm. So we know that this mental health issues affects the entire community and pretty much every family in the community. Mm-hmm. And what we know is that it is very hard for people to access care. It's hard for people to talk about their mental health. It's hard for people to utilize their insurance. Like, there's nothing that's really easy about the mental health system and about asking for help. And so what we have tried to do as an organization is create initiatives that do make it easy, that do try to bring mental health care to people who otherwise are without. So the diversity is incredibly important. Inclusivity is incredibly important to us because we know this is an issue that affects everyone, but not everybody has the same access to care. In large part, if you have good insurance, if you have financial resources, what you have access to is quite different than somebody who has no insurance or someone who may have a language barrier. Or someone who just doesn't even know where to begin looking for help in their community. Mm-hmm. So we've tried to take a community health approach, community wellness approach, because we really do want the whole community to get something from our organization being here.
I love that. That's beautiful. This year, the exhibit is traveling between both Elkhart Public Library and the St. Joseph County Public Library. What does this experience, what does bringing this experience to the public into these welcoming spaces mean to you?
So what we love about the libraries, and I will tell you that we love the library systems in the Elkhart Library System, the St. Joseph County Library System, Mishawaka. We love what the library is about because they are very welcoming places. They're accessible places. And that aligns very well with what we hope is going to happen with the exhibit. So people can come to the library without saying, I want to go see an exhibit, a formal exhibit. They can just come in and, circulate through the exhibit and get the message of what we're trying to convey. And so the library, we did it last year, the exhibit last year in Elkhart County. And what we found is that people, surprising to us, people in St. Joseph County weren't, it was harder for them, maybe in the wintertime, to travel to Elkhart County. And we really felt that with the artists being from both Elkhart County and St. Joseph County, that we had an opportunity to share the exhibit with both counties. And quite frankly, if we had somebody in Marshall County say that they would like to host us, we probably would add that in the future as well. But these are institutions that are open to everyone. They're wheelchair accessible. And that's really what we want. We want the message of mental health and well-being to be something that resonates with every community member, and that you don't have to do anything out of your ordinary routine. If you're not somebody who goes to museums, we are making this really easy for you to feel comfortable in the setting, because these are the Elkhart Library. This is the exhibit set up in their main atrium, so anybody coming into the library can engage with the exhibit. We will have a QR code and our resources, so if anybody does at the exhibit say, you know what, I want to see if maybe I can take a mental health screening, or maybe it is time for me to get counseling. I don't know where to begin. We will leave information, mental health resource information at the exhibit, so that people do have a way of taking a next step if they feel ready to do that. Mm-hmm. But the libraries are just incredible resources in our community. And anyone can come to the library and get what they need. And I think that's why we feel the same way about what we are trying to do with the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. One artist had shared that participating helped them feel less alone during a time when they really needed connection. When you hear reflections like that, what does it affirm for you about this work?
We need community. And that's what I loved when you spoke about your mission, is that we as people need to know that we're not alone. And so many people who struggle with mental illness can feel isolated and alone. And that's part of the illness as well, is that you can isolate yourself. But you can also feel that no one gets you, that no one likes you, no one wants to be around you. And that can lead to more isolation and distrust and all sorts of things that pull people away from community. And so what I love about doing an exhibit is that we really are saying we want to see you, and we do see you even as you're struggling. We as a community value everyone in the community. And if you're struggling, we do, I feel this, that we have a duty to support each other and to be there for each other. And that to me is a way forward for the community. And so the comment from the artist, I was really affirmed about why we do the exhibit, hearing that artist say that this was a place to form community. It was a place to be seen in a way that for some people might have been scary coming in, but hopefully they felt, that there is community, the community is possible. And that, and for us as an organization, that we see you and we value you, and we, want to wrap our arms, around you.
Mm-hmm. And that ties into my next question, which you kind of touched on, but I'd like to ask you anyway. For someone who attends the exhibit, whether they're navigating their own mental health journey or simply curious, what do you hope that they will feel as they move through the spaces?
I definitely want people to feel that they're not alone, that as they are on their journey, whether they are just at the beginning of starting to get help or have, gone through services and are on the recovery side, I do want people to feel seen. I want them to feel that wherever they are on their journey, if they need help, that we as an organization are there for people to use our services and to contact us if they feel that they need support. So I think, that affirmation is really important, feeling like we are a resource that gets the journey, gets the struggle, and that we want to be a resource that's responsive and helpful.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And in regard to resources, I will put any of the links that you want me to share in our show notes to make it available for listeners to be able to easily contact you and learn more about how they can become involved or more about the organization itself.
Great.
Lisa, as we finish up, is there anything that you'd like to share with someone listening who may be struggling right now and wondering if spaces like this are for them?
So the first thing I want to say to somebody who's struggling is that you're not alone, and that with help, you can recover. And that is something that I don't say lightly. I know that from my clinical work that it can be difficult to access help, but I know that recovery is possible. And that as complicated as that may feel, there are people who want you to get the help that you need. So that's my bottom line message is, if you're listening and struggling, I want you to reach out so that we can see if we can accompany you on your journey toward wellness, even if it's complicated and hard. I think that's my message. And that for some people who aren't sure if what they're dealing with warrants treatment, mental health screening is something that we strongly recommend. If you go to our website and go to the Get Help section, there is a link to a free mental health screening that you can take. It's free, it's anonymous, and I think it's a good first step for people to just see if the symptoms that they're experiencing or what they're experiencing maybe could use some professional help. But the idea with the art exhibit is that, art is a wonderful medium for people to express themselves. And some people, aren't necessarily comfortable talking, but they can create. And art as a way to express yourself is something that we know has benefit. So you don't have to work with an art therapist to see the benefit of creativity and art. But we know that there are veterans who have found tremendous help with art therapy. People who are trauma survivors have worked with art therapists, music therapists, dance therapists. Really, that part of our brain that is creative can also help us to feel better and to heal. And that is something that, I think those resources are not as plentiful as, say, talk therapy, but we know they can be really effective. For people who may say, I don't really feel comfortable talking with somebody, there are other avenues like art that can help you process whatever trauma you've been through.
Thank you. So as we wrap up today's conversation, I am reminded that mental health support doesn't always begin with answers. Sometimes it begins with presence, creativity, and the courage to share our stories. Journey of the Mind through visual artistic expression reflects something we hold deeply at Conscious Michiana, that well-being is personal, communal, and deeply interconnected. When we make a space for art, for storytelling, and for compassion, we make space for healing, not just individually, but collectively. We encourage you to experience the exhibit for yourself between February 21st and March 26th at the Elkhart Public Library, as well as the St. Joseph County Public Library, and to learn more about the ongoing work of mental health awareness of Michiana. Thank you for being part of this community and for showing up with openness and care. Until next time, may you find movement and action, creativity, and gentleness in your own journey. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really wonderful to be here.
That is a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us in the Hive. We hope you're walking away inspired, energized, and ready to expand, evolve, and grow on your own journey. If this conversation moved you, sparked a new idea, or made you feel more connected, share it with a friend and help us keep the buzz alive. Conscious Michiana is a nonprofit powered by community, and your support helps us keep creating meaningful content, hosting events, and connecting people to the resources they need to thrive. Visit consciousmichiana.org/donate to contribute, because every drop of honey helps. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with us on social media. Until next time, be well, Michiana. The Michiana Hivecast, buzzing with wellness, connection, and conscious living in Michiana. Expand, evolve, grow.